In working for the Trump administration, especially as a spokesperson, there are basically three basic styles that you have to choose from when doing your hits on TV or on your blog post or on your podcast, whatever is going through. There's the number one, the aw shucks, repeat the talking points and shrug off any questions. Despite whatever the questions are, despite being called out on something or having something that deserves some sort of follow-up question or actual information to add onto it, you just, you're cordial, you're genial, and you just keep repeating your talking points over and over again. There's the number two, fight like hell, regardless of how horrible your talking points are, where when you're questioned on something, you just keep yelling, screaming, and throwing things at the people to repeat your talking points and show the questioner how dumb they are for asking those questions as opposed to answering the question that's being asked to you. This is essentially the Stephen Miller playbook. If you've seen Stephen Miller anywhere, probably since teenage years, he basically, you're asked a question, he gives you an answer, you ask a follow-up, he yells you for being human, apparently. There's also a good mix of 1 and 2, which basically never happens, but it can happen where sometimes someone is genial and then they get ticked off and they get mad, or someone is kind of mad and then they do something that's kind of off-putting where it turns into they're actually more genial and go from there. In most cases, you're strong 1, you're strong 2. Today, it's a strong 2. Today, we are talking about the curious case of Trisha McLaughlin, who is the spokesperson for Department of Homeland Security, and a contentious claim that she had between an altercation with Democratic lawmakers and ICE agents. A strong user, number 2, as I said, which is how Trump basically views himself, how he does most of his talking, where he prefers it go along with his thought process of never admit you're wrong, never admit you make a mistake, and fight, fight, fight. Now, Trump is actually a good user of the three, the mixture of the two sometimes, where he'll be kind of nice and all of a sudden get mean at somebody, or he'll be kind of stoic and he'll tell a joke. But no one in the administration really can use that. It used to be a 1 or 2, and he loves the number 2. Now, let's talk about what actually happened with McLaughlin. Talking about today, as recorded this on the 17th of May, but it actually goes back to 7 days ago, the 10th. But on today, CNN hit she had this morning, she alleged that Democratic lawmakers body slammed ICE agents during a visit to New Jersey Detention Center. She actually said that last week and just repeated it again. This led to a story a few days prior to that hit where the mayor of Newark, New Jersey was arrested, and the talk about why he was arrested, how it's going on, things like that. We'll get to that in just a moment, but let's go to the fact of the actual visual she gave of 70-year-old ladies body slamming ICE agents. After today's appearance, or after the last week's appearance, she actually promised video evidence to send to the newscasters. She did. CNN has that video evidence. She came back on today to talk about a few issues, but when they went back to this one, they aired the footage. This is the footage first from the mayor, from social media that he posted. Someone had a camera running on there for him walking around of him and what happened. First, he entered the facility, the ICE facility, by himself. Or there's a couple people, I guess, trailing him, I guess. But it was calm. It was quiet. The security agent opened the door, or gate, I should say. He walked into the image. He walked into the yard. Some agents came out, and they addressed him, said, "Sir, you can't be here. The members of Congress have the right to step in and observe if they want to because they're members of Congress. The mayor of Newark does not." He shrugs. He walks back out to the public place. There are protesters, as have been there for weeks. There are other things going on. There are cameras everywhere in this action going on. A few moments later, after he's left the actual facility with the gates in the public area, in the parking lot, if you will, ICE agents come back out and arrest him. That's where the story turns into the mayor of Newark has been arrested by ICE. That's where the story comes from. What happens here with the video evidence that it was presented is where your lying eyes may get to you, or that smell you're getting from your nose may get a bit foul for you. Because, as I said, CNN aired footage that the mayor had on social media of him walking in, walking out, not accosting anybody, and then all of a sudden being accosted by ICE agents, arrested if you will, who were then accosted by members of the public, some of the protesters, and some of those members of Congress who, yes, were beating on the back of folks and pushing and shoving. No body slamming was done. Then they showed the video from the view of the Homeland Security, which was a body cam video from someone who was basically inside the scrum, a few levels in the rest going forward, where there was pushing, there was shoving, there was a melee, for lack of a term, because I'm learning out terms, But no one was beaten down. No one was body slammed. No one that was outside of that could do any damage to those guys wearing vests and helmets. No damage was being done to the ICE agents. Just an annoyance in trying to, stymie an arrest, which seemed like it was not a good arrest. So all that happened. As we said, U.S. members of Congress can do spot checks in the facilities. Mayors of Newark cannot. And so that's where the kerfuffle came from. It was aggressive. There was pushing. There was shoving. But there was no body slamming. In fact, Viktor Blackwell, who ran both the interaction today and last week, said he went to the dictionary for different ones to look up the definition of body slamming, and there was no wrestling moves where people were thrown to the ground. So the claim that a 70-year-old plus congresswoman was doing this, she was pushing, but did something that was more violent than that, were basically a lie. Being caught in said lie, McLaughlin basically noted that the video did not support, or Blackwell noted that the video did not support her previous assertion. And so McLaughlin said, body slammed, body rammed, punched, shoved, pushed, whatever you want to call it, basically saying, yes, they basically just put up a fight, not body slammed. So in a world where semantics matter, and in their world, semantics kind of matter, the semantics are off. The broadening terms are raising concerns about the accuracy and intent behind the original claim. It was not accurate, but the intent was to put forth a message that was put forth that was not accurate. Let's go back to the actual issue here. The whole point was it occurred outside a detention hall, Delaney Hall Detention Center in Newark. Mayor Ross Braca is the mayor of Newark. Democratic lawmakers went to this facility to do a spot check. They can do that. We've said that point. Mayor Braca cannot. He said, okay. He left the inside of the facility and was arrested after he left. There was no melee. There was no buses trying to cram their way into the facility. There was no forcible mention inside of the facility. In fact, all the stuff that happened was in the parking lot where all the protesters were, they were loud, but they were protesting more or less peacefully in the parking lot. There is debate over treatment of elected officials in general and transparency of DHS operations specifically right here. And of course, the things that people say to support said President Donald Trump. Two things about this situation. It underscores the importance of verifying claims with concrete evidence, having the actual video that shows what you're saying, not just saying it and said, oh, I'll give you something and not coming up through. This is you're showing your work in class. This is what's important with that one, especially with serious allegations against public officials. The mayor tried to bust into this facility. No, he actually didn't. It also highlights the need for accuracy, accountability, and transparency within government agencies, i.e., make sure the words you're saying are right, because once that buzzer hits, you can't take them back. Part of the Trump charm is that he says exactly what he's thinking. And most of what he thinks seems to be lies, defying truth, and blatantly lying and defying the truth. His spokespeople are there to deliver his messages, decipher what he's saying to the public. And when the message is a lie, and your instructions are to defend the lie, at all costs, by the way, this is the kind of thing that you have. At the end of the Trump administration, last one that happened, those who worked for him had two choices. Run far, far away and do whatever they could to get back into employment in the non-MAGA world in hopes that the world will revert to something close to normal, which it started to, and now it's back to where it is. And so now it's back to where it is. Some of those folks just hope for Trump to return to power, which he did. So they can get back to the crazy that is right now. And as long as they say this crazy works, this crazy will work. Even when anyone with the ears, eyes, and noses, got it right that time, could figure out there's something amiss. I don't know what Trisha McLaughlin will do at the end of this second presidential term. I don't know if she's going to be here the full time. Chances are not, because especially press secretaries and people's spokespeople tend to be shuffled out pretty quickly. But I wish her no ill will. But at some point, the first rule of holes has to come into play. Oh, you've not heard the first rule of holes? Let me show you. First rule of holes is simple. if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging, because chances are you're the person holding the shovel as you stand in the hole. So if there's a hole there, you look around, hey, I'm in a hole. Stop digging. This goes along with the second rule of holes, second law of holes either way, which is when you stop digging, you will soon realize you're still in the hole. So you should do something about that. I'm not sure which rule of holes that she's actually in right now, but pretty soon she'll have to figure out how to get herself out of that hole.